kitty!
When the Transformers were introduced in live-action films, it was a delight for all of its fans. The cool transformations from the bot mode into the vehicle mode of the Cybertronians kept everyone's eyes fixed on the screen. If that wasn't enough, we also got to see some crazy action sequences and badass moments. We are familiar with popular names like Megatron, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Starscream, and more, mainly because of their badass nature. But there are many more yet to be shown in the films. Both the Autobots and the Decepticons have their fair share of tough bots with high durability and strength. But it is not just raw brute strength that makes a badass Transformer, but also his or her demeanor and capacity to inflict damage. So, without further delay, let us begin today's video, where we will be exploring 10 crazy and badass Transformers who deserve their spots in live-action Transformer films. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means an awful lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Number 1. Metroplex. Metroplex was among the first of the 13 colony titans who could transform into a city. His alt mode was the entire Autobot city, and it is needless to say that he was immensely powerful. Before the Cybertronian Civil War, Metroplex was known as a legend without any proper trace of its existence. Even during most of the war, Metroplex's presence was left unnoticed until Megatron began his attack on the Autobot space shuttle, aka the Ark. Optimus Prime discovered that the city's interiors were continually shifting to fit him as he pulled a few switches. Finally, when Optimus noticed another Cybertronian nearby, he called for assistance. The whole Autobot metropolis changed into a massive robot named Metroplex and pledged assistance to Optimus Prime and the Autobots. The addition of Metroplex to the squad significantly tipped the balance in the Autobots' favor. The Autobots were close to winning after a few deadly hits were focused at targets that Optimus had chosen. However, Megatron's powerful weaponry delivered a direct hit to Metroplex's chest, and he was considered to be dead. After capturing Optimus while Megatron bragged about his triumph, he was unaware that Metroplex had survived. Metroplex engaged Megatron one-on-one while attacking the Decepticons. To everyone's shock, Metroplex had killed Megatron, which eventually made the Decepticons retreat. Unfortunately, the majority of the energon that was intended to be utilized by the Ark for their departure was expended due to all the fighting. A few days later, they discovered another energy source, but it was insufficient. Metroplex then gave his life to give the Ark the last of his body's energy. Metroplex is immensely powerful. He could lift 75,000 tons and be as tall as 800 meters. His armor is heavily militarized and possesses a high level of durability. A high-energy master, or microwave application through simulated emission of radiation, is affixed to his left shoulder. Medium-sized vehicles can fit in a compartment in his chest module. The left rear tower of Metroplex's torso may transform into Slammer, a tank with a 40-mile range of fire. There is a little sports car named Scamper and a robot named Six Gun who carries 6 guns in Metroplex. Metroplex seldom engaged in war, but the way he destroyed the Decepticon leader Megatron in his damaged state indeed puts him on the list of badass Transformers.
Near missiles!
Number 2. Inferno. When it comes to badass Cybertronians, there is no list without Inferno. He was one of the first Autobots to roll out to stop the Insecticons from attacking the Nova power plant. Slinging his guns with passion, he managed to shoot down Laserbeak before rescuing human pilots from a crashing helicopter. The Insecticons electrocuted Ironhide, which set his systems on fire, but Inferno managed to save him by spraying fire-retardant foam and loading him into Prime's trailer. Later, Later, in the episode titled The Master Builders from their Transformers animated series, Inferno was shown assisting the Autobots in their fight against the Constructicons, helping them emerge victorious. Despite all the dependability, Inferno had an itch for action. As showcased in the episode titled Auto Berserk, Inferno was assigned the duty of guarding Red Alert during a Decepticon attack, but Inferno abandoned Red Alert to fight against the Decepticons. Red Alert was later found buried under rubble and rescued by Inferno himself, but unfortunately, his logic circuits were severely damaged. Sometime later, Megatron conspired a plot in which Inferno, along with the other Autobots, were sent on a rocket to the sun. The Autobots were about to face their demise if Trailbreaker had not created a force field to protect them, after which Cosmos returned them to Earth. The Autobots soon ended Megatron's plans, and Inferno, along with the remaining Autobots, attacked the Decepticons. Inferno had a passion for fighting. Inferno made sure he got to play his part in shooting Decepticons whenever there was a fight. His body was highly heat resistant, for which he could withstand blasts better than the rest of the Autobots. He is fearless and also available for any crisis. It is not brute strength, but his bravery and attitude that makes Inferno a badass Transformer. Inferno had nearly fought all wars for the Autobots and was a dependable warrior of the race. When Megatron had once occupied New York with his army of drones, Inferno was there defending the city and putting out the fire from the Chrysler Building.
How did you get...
Number 3. Overlord. Overlord was a gigantic and powerful Decepticon who all Autobots feared. The colossal robot was an amalgamation of two individual vehicles, Megajet and Gigatank. Overlord has made prominent appearances in various forms of media, but his origin story is detailed in the Japanese Generation 1 cartoon continuity. A mysterious evil alien named Devil Z wants to create the ultimate life form by fusing Transformers and humans. To fuel his evil intentions, Devil Z stole a collection of Transformer transtectors from the G Nebula, the home of Oracle's megacomputer. Oracle was then holding researched methods of merging mechanical and organic life. Devil Z brought it to Earth, recruited a human couple, Mega and Giga, and bonded them to the biggest transtectors. Eventually, the two humans transformed into two vehicles, Megajet and Gigatank. These two bonded to form the ultra-powerful and badass robot Overlord, also known as the Ambassador of Destruction. Overlord's complete form was first showcased in episode 24 of Transformers Super God Master Force, where Mega and Giga combined to defeat Jinray. Overlord made his comic book debut in the 2010 5-issue miniseries Last Stand of the Wreckers. Written by Nick Roche and James Roberts, the miniseries showcased Overlord as a rebellious Decepticon leader who took great delight in slaughtering his opponents ruthlessly. He was focused on being powerful enough to overthrow Megatron. What made Overlord dangerous was his unpredictable nature. He is either a cold, cunning genius or a vicious and cruel monster. Overlord is a nightmare for the Autobots, and owing to his badass nature, he has gained a noticeable amount of admirers. The combination of the two human godmasters, Mega and Giga, that eventually gave shape to Overlord's robot mode. He could transform into a tank and jet that could combine together to form a robot mode, a big space jet, or an intensely weaponized advanced base. The badass Decepticon had the most powerful Decepticon weapons ever witnessed. His stomach carried a laser blaster and innumerable grenades for which Overlord is never seen to run out of ammo. Overlord also had a unique ability to stop his opponents from healing their wounds. He could even manufacture his own weapons. Number 4. Hotshot. Next on our list, we have the quintessential young hero, Hotshot. He was introduced in Transformers Armada after the franchise faced issues with including Bumblebee in the series. As expected from a young blood, or in this case, a young circuitry, Hotshot is energetic, overconfident, naive, and sometimes quite annoying. Several years ago, Hotshot and Wheeljack were in a fierce battle against the Decepticons when Wheeljack got incapacitated. Hotshot left him, promising help, but before he could return, Wheeljack was rescued by Megatron. Since then, Wheeljack swore vengeance against Hotshot and the Autobots for abandoning him on the battlefield. Wheeljack later resurfaced for his revenge, and the newly recruited Autobot, Sideswipe, fell victim to his wrath. It was then Hotshot who managed to rescue Sideswipe. At some point later on, Optimus received a distress signal from the Minicons. Hotshot was sent to Earth to investigate further, where he partnered with the Minicon Jolt when the Starsaber was created with with the combination of 3 minicons, it was handed over to Hotshot. Being hot-headed and impulsive, Hotshot's ego was highly boosted after receiving the Starsaber, and he became nearly invincible in the battlefield with it. It was only after Sideways tricked Hotshot into getting rid of the sword, following which he was almost beaten to death by his opponents. After Prime's sacrifice to save the Earth, Hotshot was given the Matrix of Leadership, but he declined, which also marked the onset of a very fluctuating and weak administration. Hotshot made several other notable appearances in Transformers Energon and Transformers Unicron trilogy. Hotshot was a hothead for which he often landed into trouble. However, he was brave and could lay his life down without a second thought for his comrades. When it comes to hand-to-hand combat, Hotshot is highly skilled. He often used a hollow beam refraction blaster, which could deliver damaging blows to his opponents. The look for Hotshot is itself quite badass. With shades and a straight face, Hotshot had the ability to bring utter chaos to the Decepticons. Number 5. Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus was first introduced in the 3rd season of Transformers Prime, in the episode titled Scattered. He was a member of the Elite Guard forces and was a commander for the special Autobot faction called the Wreckers. During the Cybertron Civil War, after Optimus escaped from the Ark, Magnus became the second in command and took leadership over the remaining Autobots on Cybertron. Later, after Cybertron's destruction, he began exploring the galaxy alone in quest of the last Autobot. In fact, it was all because of Ultra Magnus and the other remaining Autobots that Prime's crew managed to escape. Sadly, he was unable to locate or save any other Autobots because by the time he had arrived, they had already perished or were about to perish at the hands of the Decepticons. Later, he collaborated with the Dinobots and joined Team Prime. Ultra Magnus was very similar to Optimus Prime, more like a Prime Light. His armor includes a one-headed cannon and can even transform into a truck. Ultra Magnus is an extremely powerful Autobot who is rigorous in obeying commands. He frequently had disagreements with his fellow soldiers as a result of his strict techniques, but they all respected him for his might and his morals. Ultra Magnus is so incredibly powerful that he once defeated Starscream with a single blow. He also used just one hand to defeat Shockwave. He had easily lifted even the Forge of Solus Prime. All these surely make him one of the most badass Cybertronians.
Where is Megatron?
Number 6. Tarn. Tarn was one of the blind followers of Megatron and a sociopathic murderer. His admiration for Megatron's cause was at such a level that he even embossed the Decepticon symbol on his faceplate. Apart from being an ardent supporter, Tarn was a vengeful, obsessive maniac who loved playing music and iterating Megatron's philosophical works towards peace. He was the commander of the most lethal division in Megatron's army, the Decepticon Justice Division. The division was explicitly established to track down traitors, which they meticulously accomplished. Once a traitor was apprehended, they took care to ensure that their punishment was deserving enough to serve as an example to the other Decepticons and inspire dread in them. The unit was small in number, and each member was named after the 5 cities that were destroyed during the Cybertronian Civil War. Each member of the division was so strong that it was impossible to take them down in a 1-to-1 fight by any Cybertronian. With Tarn as their leader, the section became an inevitable force of destruction. Tarn was as ruthless and frightening as any other Decepticon, but unlike them, he portrayed himself as a bureaucrat. Although he felt his acts were totally justifiable, as it was only for the benefit of his idol Megatron, he suffered from self-deprecating thoughts. Tarn was one of the key adversaries in IDW's The Transformers more than meets the eye. He was one of the strongest pillars of the Decepticons, who ensured Megatron's firm grip over the Decepticons. Tarn was one of the biggest assets of the Decepticon forces. He was super strong, loyal, and a sociopath whose cruelty index was superior to even Megatron. He was created for the sole purpose of taking down traitors with extreme prejudice. His wrath is feared amongst the Decepticons, which eventually keeps no chance of mutiny or rebellion within the group. Tarn had a unique ability to freeze his enemies from far distances using his voice. He also had a unique ability to modulate his voice to frequencies that could force his enemies' sparks to shut down after hearing his music or words. With all these abilities, Tarn was a badass Transformer who was certainly not to be messed with. The slightest of provocations could alter his friendly demeanor into a dangerous rage.
Lights out, kitty!
Number 7. Windblade. One of the newest Autobots, Windblade made her comic book debut in Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, issue 26, which was released in February 2014. She played a significant role in the animated series Transformers Prime Wars trilogy. Windblade was not technically an Autobot because, in contrast to them, she was born on the planet Caminus, one of the few that the Cybertronians inhabited following their second civil war. Later, when they were ordered to return to Cybertron, Windblade was among the first to arrive and assume the position of a city speaker after she successfully spoke with Metroplex. Windblade eventually ascended to the top positions in the administration and was one of the people who made decisions for Cybertron. Windblade resembles Bumblebee more because of how little of a role he plays in battle. She is one of the team's more intelligent members due to her intellect and communication abilities. Windblade is outfitted with cutting-edge communication systems that can locate Decepticons among other important tools. She has the ability to fly, and her wind generators are able to shock her opponents with concussive blasts. She has psychic talents, in addition to being skilled in hand-to-hand combat. Windblade has the ability to influence and read the minds of Autobots. Later, during Robots in Disguise's first season, the commander of the Autobots, Optimus Prime, enhanced her to defend Earth. Owing to her skill set, she had an instinct for locating Decepticons and fighting them with her advanced fighting techniques. Adding to her badass fighting skills, she had the knack for giving nicknames to other members of the team. Number 8. Nova Prime. Nova Major, who would later become Nova Prime, was an elite soldier who led the unification of all Cybertronians under one society. Pleased by his efforts, he was blessed by Alpha Trion to take up the mantle of Prime, hence becoming Nova Prime. Nova Prime, along with his close friends and advisors, Geoxus, Cyclonus, Diatlas, and Galvatron, ventured to learn more about their gods, the Guiding Hand. They eventually arrived at the Hand's old home, Crystal City, and met its guardian, Omega Supreme. Omega Supreme soon joined Nova Prime's crew, bringing the Golden Age together. However, Nova could not stick to his morals, and he soon began growing into an expansionist and a supremacist, believing the Cybertronians to be the greatest of all life forms in the universe. He was obsessed with the prophecy made by the Hand, which stated that all shall be one, and he took it upon himself to conquer the universe and enslave all life forms, taking away their free will. At some point, he was sucked into the dead universe and chosen to be the host of the Darkness. The Darkness was an otherworldly counterpart of the Matrix of Leadership and had the ability to transform the dead into undead wielders of the anti-life. Nova Prime was the first of the 13 primes created by Primus and possessed by a different level of power. His conviction made him formidable, and once he was convinced about conquering other universes, there was no stopping him. If that's not enough, his powers were boosted and given a new dimension after he merged with the Darkness. His goals drifted slightly as he wanted to fulfill the Darkness's imperative by expanding the dead universe in the world of the living, but he did that too with utmost diligence. He wielded the dead universe's energy and had power over life. Nova could then hop across dimensions and even warp reality, and that is certainly one of the most badass skills possessed by any Cybertronian.
Render him harmless!
Number 9. Astrotrain. Astrotrain was a triple-changer Decepticon who could transform into a steam locomotive and a space shuttle. In fact, his favorite sport was to confuse Autobots with his changing forms, making them think they were against 3 Decepticons instead of 1. Like all Decepticons, he took pleasure in destroying his victims, enjoying the fear in their eyes in their final moments. In the animated series based on the Generation 1 continuity, Astrotrain had arrived on Earth during the second year of Megatron's conquest to find Earth's energy resources. He was first seen after the Decepticon takeover of Central City, guarding human hostages inside a mine. At some point, Astrotrain had managed to trick the inhabitants of the Titan into believing that he was the Sky God. His plan worked initially with the help of a corrupt high priest named Jero, who was as ruthless as him. The people of Titan mined energy crystals for him, but later, when Omega Supreme arrived in search of Cosmos, whom he had previously shot down, Astrotrain destroyed the crystals and escaped. However, he had enjoyed his brief period of rule on Titan and started developing an urge to rule. In one of the episodes of the series titled Triple Takeover, Astrotrain and his fellow triple changer Blitzwing took over the leader of the Decepticons by freezing Megatron and Starscream. He was later made to surrender at gunpoint by Megatron. Although Astrotrain was not larger than any average Transformer, what made him formidable was his rage in fusion with his intellect. He had a wide range of high-tech weaponry, and he was highly skilled with it. Apart from his skills, he was also useful in transporting Decepticons. Being ruthless to the core of his heart, he is responsible for terrorism, attempted murders, inducing slavery, treason, and many more. Overall, Astrotrain is a badass Decepticon who could soon become the viewer's delight if introduced in live-action movies. Number 10. Snaptrap. Finally, we have the unstoppable killing machine, Snaptrap. He was the leader of one of the most fiercest ranks within the Decepticons, known as the Seacons. The Seacons were underwater combat experts and were known for being ruthless and vicious. They had resemblances to marine creatures, which improved their control over bodies of water. Snaptrap's name was kept after a snapping turtle. He had earned the title the Butcher of the Bogs after killing an Autobot regiment in Cybertron's toxic sludge swamps. In Marvel, the Transformers comics, for the UK only, we got to see Snaptrap in his ultimate form. In the storyline titled Enemy Action, Snaptrap had joined Shockwave's Earthbound Decepticon along with Seawing. When Galvatron arrived, he was aware of the Decepticons' might, for which he called back all his troops and achieved his ultimate form, Piranacon. Despite being a vicious race itself, the Seacons were cautious in the presence of Snaptrap. He is a true maniac, and the slightest thing could set him off into his vicious, cruel rage. He enjoyed hunting his victims more than anyone in his faction, and escaping from his pursuit was nearly impossible. Apart from hunting, he is also a skilled warrior, and winning battles against him is as difficult as escaping. He even managed to blast off an unarmed Optimus during the latter's expedition to retrieve a power source carried by Dreadwing. In his combiner form, Piranacon, he has unified thinking unlike the other combiners. Having such a badass Transformer with the Decepticons certainly gives them an upper hand over the Autobots. Conclusion. We have finally arrived at the end of our video, and we hope you have enjoyed our content. The list of Transformers mentioned could create a lot of impact if introduced to the live-action films, and we hope they do it soon. Please let us know if there are other badass Transformers yet to be showcased in live-action movies in the comments section below. And, as always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. This has been Corey Whelan for Marvelous Videos. Have a good one out there, be safe, and thanks for watching.
Freeze, Decepticon.